In a fresh escalation of trade measures, US President Donald Trump has announced a 50% tariff on copper imports. Aiming to boost domestic production, copper prices surged over 13%. That's their biggest one-day gain since 1989, following that announcement. Let's break it down for you. You see, the US currently imports nearly half of its copper needs, primarily from Chile, Canada, and Peru. The tariff, set to take effect by end July, mirrors similar 50% duties already placed on steel and aluminium. US copper miners gained on expectations of increased domestic demand, and the move is seen as part of a broader effort to align industrial tariffs with national security priorities. India exported $2 billion worth of copper products globally in the financial year 2025, of which just $360 million, that's around 17%, was to the US. While this market segment could take a hit, India's diversified demand and growing domestic consumption may help cushion that blow. And in contrast, India's pharmaceutical sector faces far greater risk. The US is India's largest pharma export destination, in fact, accounting for $9.8 billion or 40% of total pharma exports. The proposed 200% tariff on pharma imports, if implemented, could make low-cost Indian generics unviable in the US market, with generics forming over 90% of US prescriptions. And the move could disrupt both markets significantly. The tariff moves coming amid broader global realignments. Donald Trump is set to dispatch new tariff letters before the duties kick in from August 1. And India has not yet received such a letter, a sign that bilateral trade talks may be progressing. Donald Trump has said a deal with India is close, and its outcome could determine whether sectors like pharma and copper are granted exemptions or face rollouts. Meanwhile, Trump reiterated a possible 10% across-the-board tariff on BRICS countries, including India, further raising the stakes ahead of that August 1 deadline. Switching gears for now, let's tell you about a new study from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Raipur, which has raised fresh concerns. Screen time is quietly becoming a regular part of early childhood. According to the study, children under the age of 5 in India are spending an average of 2.2 hours every day on screens, which is double the limit recommended by the World Health Organization. The meta-analysis published in the journal Curious analyzed data from 10 different studies comprising 2,857 children. Researchers from AIIMS Raipur found that children under 2, who ideally should not have any screen time at all, are exposed to screens for around 1.2 hours daily. The study says that increased screen time among children can lead to several health issues, including slowed language development, reduced cognitive function, poor social skills, a higher risk of obesity, disturbed sleep patterns, and difficulty in concentrating. And to reduce these health risks, the study recommends creating tech-free zones at home, setting simple daily time limits, and encouraging offline play for children. This is not just a problem in India, of course. It's a growing global concern. International benchmarks recommend that children under the age of 5 should get at least 3 hours of physical activity every day, including 1 hour of intense exercise. And they should also get between 10 to 13 hours of sleep and no more than 1 hour of screen time daily. A global study which looked at around 7,000 children across 33 countries found that only 14.3% of 3 to 4-year-olds actually meet all these health standards. While 81% get enough sleep, just 41.8% meet the screen time recommendations. Around 49.2%, meanwhile, get enough physical activity. And in response, some countries have taken firm measures. In France, for example, health authorities have advised against any screen use before the age of 3. China has imposed a strict mobile phone ban at night and capping online gaming for minors to just 3 hours a week. In Sweden, the Public Health Agency has recommended no screens at all for children under 2. a move that mirrors guidance in Ireland, where experts say babies up to 18 months should not be exposed to screens. In France, the government is clear: children under 3 should have no screen time, and up until the age of 6, it should be strongly limited. Our next story is about a rather interesting turn of events. Bill Gates is no longer among the top 10 billionaires in the world. In fact, what's also interesting is that he now ranks below his former colleague, Steve Ballmer. Just for context here, Bill Gates had hired Ballmer at Microsoft. And in a major reshuffle on the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, Bill Gates has exited the top 10 richest people globally, now sitting at the 12th spot with an estimated net worth of $124 billion. And that's a sharp $52 billion decline in just 1 week, according to reports. The drop is not tied to market performance or poor financial decisions, but rather a reflection of massive philanthropic allocations Gates has made in recent years. Let's just break this down further for you. The latest update adjusts the valuation of Gates' assets based on the extent of his charitable commitments. The Microsoft co-founder has pledged to donate nearly all of his wealth, with over $60 billion reportedly already given to the Gates Foundation, and more earmarked for future causes. This shift marks a deliberate transition from wealth accumulation to large-scale global giving, particularly in healthcare, education, and development. Meanwhile, former CEO Steve Ballmer has risen to the 5th place on the global wealth rankings with an estimated net worth of $172 billion. Ballmer's long-standing and concentrated ownership of Microsoft stock has paid off handsomely as the company continues its upward climb in AI and enterprise dominance. While Gates and other early leaders diversified their holdings, Ballmer stayed the course with Microsoft equity, and it's now earned him a position among the world's richest. Together, their stories chart two interesting, in a way, contrasting trajectories in the tech billionaire class. One of disciplined concentration leading to soaring wealth, and the other of purposeful redistribution, redefining success in a way. Gates may have fallen on that list, dropping the ranks, but his legacy strategy is pushing the limits of what private wealth can actually do for public good. Meanwhile, Ballmer's rise showing what long-term conviction in one company can yield. And while we talk about Russia's intensifying aerial attacks on Ukraine, we must also ask, what exactly is fueling them? Rather, who is fueling them? The answer, according to reports, is China. China, which publicly claims to be neutral in this war, is silently powering Russia's drone war machine. And reports say that with China's help, Russia has more than tripled its drone production, more than tripled. And now the president of Ukraine is striking back by ordering sanctions on Chinese firms that supply parts for Russia's deadly drones. In fact, analysts from the Institute for the Study of War saying Chinese engineering know-how is crucial to Russian drone manufacturing, and that Chinese-made components have been found in UAVs shot down over Ukraine. On Tuesday, the Russian Prime Minister announced that Russia has more than tripled its planned drone production volumes for 2025. And he credited this to greater state funding and support for producers, including civilian companies. ISW says this boost in drone output is enabling Russia's nightly strikes on civilian targets and increasing attacks on Ukrainian frontline positions. Here's how. Drones are now being used to strike frontline and rare positions. They destroy Ukrainian ground lines of communication, artillery and rocket systems. And according to another war monitor, Ukraine-based Frontelligence Insight has reported that over 28,000 Shahid variant drones were launched by Russia on Ukraine. Since the war first started, over 2,700 drones, 10% of that total, launched in June 2025 alone. In fact, between February and April this year itself, Russia produced an average of 60 ground drones per day. That's about 1,850 drones per month. Ukraine's commander-in-chief, meanwhile, has said that Russia launched nearly 2 times more missiles and drones in the month of June as compared to May. And several reports are saying that Russia's defense industry has also worked closely with Chinese companies throughout the war, even as Western sanctions target drone competence. In May 2023, a Russian delegation to China established AIIMS, a joint venture with a Chinese university. The AIIMS plant is located in a Russian city called Khabarovsk. It's reportedly on track to produce 10,000 drones per month in 2025. 10,000. And just last month, it reportedly requested $90 million from Russia's defense ministry in order to expand production. And reports say AIIMS relies heavily on Chinese engineers to mass produce its FPV drone Veles, which is being used extensively in the Kherson region. Now, for the unversed, FPV drones are basically drones that allow the pilots to see what the drone sees in real time through a camera that's mounted on the drone, typically via goggles or a monitor. Ukraine's main military intelligence directorate, HUR, reports that 60 to 65% of components in the Russian ground drones are Chinese in origin. Last week itself, the Security Service of Ukraine, the SPU, confirmed that drone wreckage in Kiev contained parts from Chinese firm Suzhou ECOD Precision Manufacturing. And now there are reports suggesting that a new type of Chinese Wi-Fi router was found installed on the Russian Gerber drones shot down in Ukraine. But China's double speak on the war, in a way, should come as no surprise at the same time. While Beijing presents itself as a potential peacemaker, its actions seem to tell a completely different story. China denies providing military support to Russia. But remember, this year also saw allegations of Chinese nationals fighting alongside Russian troops in Ukraine, a claim that Beijing denied, by the way. And then earlier this month, the Chinese foreign minister even told the EU's top diplomat that China cannot accept Russia losing the war, as it would allow the US to focus fully on China. What does all of that tell you? To us, it sounds like China does not want the war to end. You see the contradictions? Just before the war started in 2022, the Chinese President Xi Jinping had declared a no-limits partnership with Moscow. And since then, the political and economic ties between the two sides have only strengthened. And in response, Zelensky has ordered sanctions on 5 Chinese companies. Parts from these firms were found in Shahid drones used in the July 4 attack on Kiev. Zelensky's office saying that these companies have supplied goods to Russian defense-linked firms under sanctions in both 2024 as well as 2025. And now Ukraine is working with international partners to basically push for wider sanctions on Chinese suppliers. While world leaders debate whether climate change is real or not, countries around the world are scrambling to contain weather events. Fire, water, both dangerous elements in their extreme forms, have taken hundreds of lives, putting thousands more at risk. Our next report, getting you the details. Take a look.
The world is feeling nature's fury. Climate crisis has spared no country, no matter how developed or advanced. From the west to the global south, climatic extremes are rearing their ugly head. Authorities world over are scrambling to save lives and livelihood of thousands. Texas has been ravaged by floods. More than 150 remain missing. The death toll, well beyond 100, continues to rise. A children's summer camp ending in tragedy, with at least 28 children facing the flood's fury. Search and rescue operations are in full swing, but hope of finding survivors is fading with each passing day. Governor Greg Abbott has vowed to not stop until every person is found. As the US looks to get a grip on the crisis in Texas, flash floods have battered New Mexico. Horrifying visuals have emerged from the mountain village of Ruidoso. Houses swept away, destroyed, with residents trapped in their vehicles and homes. Authorities have opened emergency shelters to accommodate the locals and tourists displaced. No casualties have been reported so far, but at least 3 people are missing. European nations are battling a climate crisis of another extreme. In southwest France, firefighters are working overtime to curtail a wildfire. They have achieved some success, but the blaze has already burnt through 2,000 hectares, with winds adding to the challenge. An eyewitness footage from Narbonne shows large orange flames lighting up the night sky. The wildfire reached France's town of Marseille, but lost intensity overnight. Residents are worried, but officials say that the situation is now under control. Spain is battling a similar catastrophe. Wildfires are raging through parts of Catalonia, with strong winds further fanning the flames. Spain's military emergency unit has joined firefighters to contain the blaze. Thousands of acres have been turned to ash, and residents are trying to curtail the damage in their own personal capacity. People in neighboring towns have been advised to remain indoors and stay alert. In China, tropical storm Danis has triggered flash flood warnings in the eastern region. Torrential rain swept across several coastal cities and towns. The downpour has triggered landslides and flash floods over a 1,400-kilometer inland region. While the storm has weakened, authorities have activated emergency flood and typhoon protocol and advised appropriate precaution. Bordering Tibet, Nepal's Rasuwa district also witnessed heavy flooding. 9 people have died and several others are still missing. The Nepal-China Friendship Bridge has been washed away by severe floods. Rescue operations continue as military helicopters airlift people to safety. In India, more than 80 people have tragically died in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand after a series of flash floods and cloudbursts ravaged the region. More than 115 people have been injured and scores went missing. Authorities are still assessing infrastructural damage, with buildings, including a bank, now just rubble. Nature's catastrophe has spared no one. The spate of tragedies worldwide has yet again put the spotlight on the rising danger of climate crisis, the inevitability of humankind's ignorance, and the price that thousands are now paying. Bureau Report, WION World is One.